I would like to welcome all the course participants on this online course on Moodle and e-learning. First of all, I would like to introduce myself to you. My name is Joachim Pelikan. I'm a biologist and e-learning expert, and I'm working at the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute, Swiss TPH, in the Teaching Technologies and Didactics unit. Most people think learning with the computer, or at least with machines, is something new. But already in 1911 there were first automates to learn the alphabet. In the 1930s, automates were constructed which allowed to solve already multiple choice questions. And in the 1960s, Skinner propagated the computers to be an ideal learning medium. Already 60 years from now. Skinner, a famous American psychologist and author, conducted a lot of work on experimental psychology, and he advocated one of the major learning approaches, which is called behaviorism. He also worked a lot in the field of an approach called programmed instruction. This approach consists of teaching through small lessons, where each lesson must be mastered in order to go on to the next. So students were able to work through the programmed material step by step with their own speed. After each step, they are presented with a question to test their comprehension, then immediately shown the correct answer or given additional information. And there are still e-learning approaches around, which consists of behaviorism and programmed instruction approach. On the right side of the slide, you can see how an old learning machine looked like. It consists of a list of questions and a mechanism through which the learner could respond to each question. Nowadays, many students still learn with question and answer cards for their exam. Which cognitive level could be covered here? Beginners or advanced? What is your opinion on that? The following table shows you a little history on e-learning. Starting in the 1980s, the training was instructure-led. It was quite expensive and time-consuming to produce. Later on in the 1980s, the first computer-based trainings on CD were available, and they already allowed the learners to learn independently from time and place. But there was still only limited contact between the learners and the teachers, and also between learners and learners. And everything was offline so far. With the invention of the World Wide Web in 1994, the situation changed. Computer-based training was transferred into web-based training. First communication means were available like email, video and audio could be used, and tutoring and communication tools were possible. In the year 2000, or starting in the year 2000 until today, we are talking about the next generation web. Streaming media was possible with higher broadband. Learning management systems were invented. Rapid e-learning tools allowed to produce small and very powerful e-learning modules. Nowadays, e-learning refers to so-called educational technology. Physical hardware, software, and educational theoretic are brought together to facilitate learning and improving performance by creating, using, and managing appropriate technological processes and resources. Several domains were covered, like learning theory, computer-based training, online learning, and where mobile technologies are used, m-learning. On the next slide, you will see several aspects to describe the intellectual and technical development of educational technology. So one domain is about the theory and practice of educational approaches to learning. We can also call this didactics. The second domain is educational technology as technological tools and media. And the third one comprises learning management systems like Moodle. On this slide, you can see many pictures with a relation to e-learning. You can see mobile learning, you can see web-based learning, you can see the globe representing that learning together worldwide is possible now. You can see pictures which show that it is possible to learn independently from time and place. But in the middle, you see a dancer. Do you think that you can learn to dance using e-learning? Let's talk a little bit about the didactics of e-learning. Some people in history always thought and still think that teaching is like filling up the brain of students with knowledge. What is your experience here? Do you think that works? What is your experience with learning and teaching? And how do you learn? So we already talked about one major concept in learning, that was the behaviorism, but a second one, which is very, very important, is called constructivism. What people construct from a learning encounter depends on many factors, like their motives and intentions. It also depends on their previous knowledge, what they already know, and how they use their prior knowledge. Meaning is therefore very personal. The alternative is that meaning is transmitted from teacher to student, like dubbing on an audio tape. Do you think that works? Learning is a very individual process, and everybody learns differently. It depends on factors like what you already know, what your experiences are. If you have an interest, we call this intrinsic motivation, or if you just need to pass an examination, we call this extrinsic motivation. And designers of e-learning programs have to create a learning environment or a learning process which allows a defined target group to reach a desired outcome in an appropriate way. In this learning model, we have on the left side the students and also the course and departmental learning context. On the right side, you have the product. The product in this case are the students' learning outcomes, what they learn in quantity and quality. So if you want to achieve a specific product or a learning outcome with a given group of students, you have to create a learning process. And the learning process should allow good teaching, should include clear goals, and should avoid surface learning and provide deep learning.